Gotcha.
So, all right. So, hey everyone, happy Friday. Oh, sorry for a little bit of a late start. We got a bunch of stuff happening. Apparently, there's some landscaping going on in the background there. Is that right, Flynn?
Yep. They're blowing those wonderful leaves everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, if it comes and goes, all right, should be good.
yeah.
But it'll hopefully be gone by the time we hit the official intro and all that kind of stuff. But if not, the audio, like for a live stream, this is not bad. But always the audio only people always complain somehow about, like,
Of course.
because they're just sitting there and like this pre-show stuff. In fact, I just cut completely out of the audio version
I gotcha.
because people just get all grumpy about it and like, oh, get to the point. I want to hear people talking, Whereas live streams, it takes a while for people to like come together, and like figure stuff out and trail in. It's something I had to learn about the art of the live stream, which I wouldn't say I'm necessarily that good at, but is that you need to like wait a good 5 to 10 minutes before you say anything substantive, because people just because people trickle in. Let's see where we're at now. We are 4.5 minutes into the thing. We had a little bit of like 2 minutes of waiting screen, and now we have like actual podcast, but we're not hitting the stories yet, right? And so as such, it just takes a while for people to like get around. Oh wait, let me get my coffee. And like, oh, is it live already? All right, whatever. Whereas like a recorded one, you want to get right to the point. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. Everyone who's listening, let me know if the sound is good. Let me know if the especially if you're on Odyssey, because Odyssey has these like janky sounds. Sometimes it just doesn't work, and you have to hit the refresh. And but yeah, let me know how it's going. We'll get started in just a second. What was the inspiration behind your funky profile picture, by the way?
So my roommate actually drew that for me. I was like, well, for a while I've been accurately predicting future events, pretty much the last like 7 years. I'm just early, so kind of like going for the wizard, mage, seer vibe, but also like the crystal ball, basically being able to look into the future, see things, and then lo and behold, they happen. Isn't that funny? Yeah. And then the color, I was like, I don't want anything to be bland. I want it to be like eye-catching, something that pops. Because there's so many logos that are like, let's take Twitter's logo, for example. Not aesthetically pleasing at all.
I mean,
but also it's like, yes. Whereas at least with the last one, you're like, oh, it's a bluebird. I know what that is, and that, and I guess it's probably the most recognizable brand now in the world. But yeah, just going for something different, and it's all hand drawn too, so it's not like that image is computer generated in any way. It's all done on an iPad.
Well, very nice. It's not
Thank you.
I mean, it's obviously a very it looks kind of hand drawn to a certain extent, but then the magic parts of it do end up looking a little bit cooler than just.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of those people with I would say probably above average artistic inclination, but below average talent. And so I never, like, I used to draw on the day, used to play music, used to do a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't, and I learned enough graphic design and stuff through open source tools to make thumbnails and other things like that. But it wasn't until like Midjourney came around that I really, it's just like, okay, now this is something I can do. I can literally, I got an imagination. I can type up, but like, this is, draw this shit. And it works out. And touching up with just a little bit of like for the thumbnail for today's show, obviously I did a Midjourney generation to do the bear that THORChain, the Thor guy is fighting. And all I had to do is just Photoshop on the actual THORChain logo and stuff. So like, it actually turned out pretty, these kinds of things turn out pretty well. So
yeah,
there's some cool stuff. All right, let's see. We are how many minutes in? We are about 8 minutes in. That's usually a good time to roll the intro graphic.
Okay.
Get stuff going, and cut out all the stuff that the the grumpy audio only people don't want to hear. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. And hey everyone, officially happy Friday. Welcome to the Digital Cash Rundown, episode 131. Been doing 131 weeks worth of these. It's a long time. Joined by the one and only Mercado Maestro, Flynn. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well. Glad to be here.
Yeah. I have actually no idea how I became acquainted. I just know that, we chat regularly on Telegram.
Scott Cunningham.
Oh, right. Scott C. Business.
Scott C. Business. He's the OG. He's helped connect a lot of people too. But yeah.
Yeah, I heard about him through Ken Bozak, by the way. He was
okay.
I've known Ken for many years. He's a crazy guy. And I saw him on Scott's show, and I'm like, oh, I'll talk to the Scott guy, and then now we know each other. And so it's kind of funny because the guy who he's already typing something angry in my Discord right now. One of my best supporters, XKCD, he said, he's like, who the hell is Flynn? And I said, Scotty C's friend. He's not a fan of Scott because he's a big Hex fan, and Scott is not a big Hex fan.
Of course. Well, not to anger your biggest supporter, but you have to use a degree of logic when you look at everything. I'm not going to say anymore. I know how how Hex fans work.
Which, by the way, I do know a lot of Hex fans that I like, and I did a few episodes ago. I don't know if you watched my Hex breakdown one with Nicole, but it was a 2-hour long one that had like 30 minutes of like news, and then the rest was just a Hex deep dive.
Oh wow! And no, I did not see that.
I think it's one of my, like, it kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people. Personally, it's one of my favorite performances from just myself because I feel like I was able to like be fully intellectually honest, but like basically speak the entire truth, but have the opposing side also agree with me. Even though the opposing side, I don't care for Hex at all. The opposing side likes Hex, but if we can agree on this, come to a 100% like agreement on this. It was a hard path it was a hard task, but I would recommend anyone who likes Hex or doesn't like Hex both to watch that. I think that'd be a good one. Yeah, and anyway, so for those watching, if you want to leave a live super chat, if you're in my Discord, go into the Digital Cash Rundown channel. Otherwise, you can use the YouTube super chats. I actually get the little fiat super chat, which doesn't come out fiat on my end, but you don't know that. And just throw in some comments. We'll keep this to a nice tight show, because honestly, what I used to do is I used to go to Cointelegraph and just look at the news stories and be like, let's pull some good ones. The problem is we're in this weird bear market time when there's like there's so few like big salacious news stories, except for, we'll get into that, right?
Yeah.
But and also those publications tend to just be like, lawsuit, this thing, this regulatory approval. There's just a bunch of nonsense that like no one cares. I don't think matters.
And just as you say that, there's a huge news story that just dropped today.
Is there?
Yes. Top of the list. 3 Arrows Capital co-founder was arrested in Singapore trying to flee the country.
Well, there we go. Well,
yeah.
We'll hit on that maybe at the end if we have time, but
if you want to, not required.
Good old 3 Arrows Capital, which like the thing, the 3 arrows into the back, that kind of took the whole thing down. But anyway, we'll start with happy things. Just something that's I don't know how big news this is in other people's worlds, but in my world, in the world of like what actually matters. So anyway, Eridanus of Nine Realms, the main THORChain development group, he posted a chart of unique swapper counts going up. He says, sometimes when I'm sad, I look at the monthly unique swapper count chart for THORChain, and I realize more people swap on THORChain now than in the bull market. Then I imagine what it'll be like next bull market. Then I'm not sad anymore. And then TCB or Thor Maximalist commented below that, spot volume is down 47% on centralized exchanges this month. We're truly gaining adoption. So this is like, this bear markets are for building is the most silly, dumb thing that people say that annoys me, but is true, at least is my philosophy. What's your hot take on this before I go into a big rant?
So first and foremost, like last bull market, THORChain was brand new. People didn't trust it. They had issues. I don't remember the specifics about what happened where they had to shut down the entire thing and basically re-engineer it. But like people in crypto love reliability. That's why they use centralized exchanges. They want to know that if, you know, they deposit their funds, they'll be able to withdraw them. And that's the thinking, at least. Whereas, you know, early stage development, THORChain had issues, and that makes it hard to use trustlessly. So now that they have built a much better product, nice clean interface, yeah, I mean, I don't even have any remote clue how much volume is going to go through that next bull market, because that's a pretty sizable jump on that chart already as it is.
Yeah.
It's
definitely worth I guess paying attention to, because I would just had a conversation with today. I mean, it's hopefully going to be released on Tuesday, so mark your calendars for that. With Alux, the founder of the Maya protocol, which is the first, I would say, I don't know if it's the first, but it's the major fork of THORChain, and about just how like radically new all this is, and like talk about wizardry. So I used THORChain in 2021, which is the chaos net phase, which is test net but with real world assets. And I remember I was providing liquidity on the ETH pool for like a few weeks before the network, the ETH went down on the network for months at a time. And so I lost like a significant portion of the money on that. Of course, it was like, I had like a few $100 total. So like $400 in, I lost $250 to $300. Like, you know, it's fine. It's nothing. I'm going to be fine.
That's chump change.
Yeah, it's fine. But the point is, like, I've been in the trenches. It was not mainnet during the last bull market. It didn't go to mainnet until somewhere about a little under a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I should say. And then since then, it's shipped so many different innovations. And by the way, I don't have a rune bag, but I have a rune bag in my head, right? I have a in my heart too. It's not like actual like, but based on like the hard chill I'm going for now, because first of all, cross-chain AMM swap, like a Uniswap, that solved the Oracle problem by just having internal price mechanisms. I saw something else about solving the MEV problem, but I have not done my research on MEV enough to be able to then understand how they solved it.
Is that minor extracted value? Is that what?
Yeah, that's that whole thing. That anyway, I'll go really deep into that some other time when I actually have the time to read. But the point is, like cross-chain Uniswap, it just kind of works. And not only did they add a few different chains, but they added a few really interesting features like savers, where anyone can get L1, like real yield on the asset. So you deposit Bitcoin, you may earn like 2% per year in Bitcoin on the Bitcoin, and can just withdraw it and you get that out. There's no risk. There's no like volatility risk outside of that. It's just Bitcoin. You get interest on your native. I mean, that's just like, that's such a value add to the entire world of crypto that doesn't have native staking, especially. And then probably one of the thing that really hit their mass adoption kind of stride, which is why you start to see the charts going up. They had something called streaming swaps, which they have like a slippage fee based thing where if I swap a big chunk of one coin for another that's too big for the pool depth, I have to pay slippage based fees. And so you want to do like small fee, you want to do small transactions or whatever. Streaming swaps let you break up your transaction over a period of time into very many small transactions, so you basically don't have to pay any slippage based fees. But instead of like you manually send Bitcoin 10 times, which is a lot of transaction fees. You send the Bitcoin once, and then in 10 chunks, it gets converted over to, say, ETH, and then you get the ETH in one transaction out. And so what this has done is allowed the fees to be lower than like Coinbase or Binance or any of these kinds of things. So the decentralized trustless way is now cheaper than the centralized way, which is pretty incredible.
Wow.
And so that's the big innovation. And then they released lending, which really should be thought of as short and long, like short opening shorts and longs or whatever, because, or longing the asset, because you do a collateralized loan. Let's just say you have 10 grand in Bitcoin, you put it in there, you get 5 grand back out, and then at any time when you pay the 5 grand back, you get your original Bitcoin back. Even if Bitcoin went 100x in the meantime, you still have to pay that original fiat value to get it back out. And that has all kinds of different like degen applications, I'm sure. But for people like me, it's like, oh, you're in a bear market, but you need to spend this stuff. Well, why don't we lock in that value so you don't have to spend at a low price? And so all these things that are just wizardry almost. And you see people online who are criticizing DeFi, which, you know, rightfully so. There's plenty of holes in the greater DeFi ecosystem. The world doesn't know THORChain exists.
No,
and it
does not.
Kicking ass, and it's just this kind of growth. Eventually, we're going to see something real, right? Eventually, we're going to see like the world be like, oh, okay. And I mean, I guess this is just one giant like hype job kind of thing I'm talking about now. Obviously, there's nuance to all this kind of stuff, but that's just what really struck out to me about this.
Yeah, I mean, like I was just taking a look at their dashboard. Let's see here. What do we got? Because you have to remember, like, you know, coming from the fiat world.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Bitcoin is what, like, so like Bitcoin's what, like 550 million or $550 billion. That's nothing compared to U.S. Treasuries or gold or really any asset that has big money backing it. Like right now, for example, THORChain has $312 million in TVL, which I know is misleading because it's, you know, dependent on what assets, but it has the major assets. So that is kind of, you know, representative. And it's saying here total volume.
It's like double what the Lightning Network is or something, or is it something like that?
Lightning Network, I think, was like 256 million or something like that, or is it way less?
Let me see what it says currently.
Yeah,
the current network capacity is 4,401.97 Bitcoin, or 118 million. That's the current.
118 million. So basically, Lightning Network is a third of the size of THORChain, and way more people know what Bitcoin is. Well, actually, I take that back. Most people don't know what Lightning is, even if they're Bitcoiners.
Yeah.
So I guess it makes sense that Lightning isn't even a third the size.
So, yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin pool in THORChain is is over a third of the value of everything that's in the Lightning Network, which obviously this is an apples to apples type thing. We're not talking about a transaction thing. We're talking about for trades. But it's still worth noting, just like there's more money in the Bitcoin whirlpool, which is the big coin join for that the Samurai wallet and other things like that use. So to add privacy to Bitcoin, there's more money in there than there is in the Lightning Network. So,
of course, that does not surprise me at all. Well, it's saying here 47 million in liquidity for Bitcoin on THORChain. So that's pretty hefty.
Yeah. It's just really interesting to see. And then the Maya protocol obviously is doing a lot of cool stuff too, but they're a teeny player compared to THORChain. And THORChain is becoming one of the biggest DEX platforms out there, but it's still not in Uniswap type territory yet, which Uniswap is still, you know, starting to eclipse some of the centralized exchanges, but still not quite there. So, and all of crypto needs to grow a lot more. So we're still talking very early days here, but we're talking some exciting stuff and some good trends. And I'm glad to see this kind of stuff moving for THORChain. Let's hope they don't find any crazy exploits or anything in the future.
Well, and like I did want to bring up because I've followed Maya back when they were first, I guess, starting out, and the thing that attracted me to them was that THORChain in general has a problem. All their developers are doxxed. So if the OFAC, the SEC, or anyone else in government wants to go after THORChain, they can. Now, Maya, supposedly, none of the developers are doxxed. It's all kind of like an arm's length away from THORChain while still being obviously a part of THORChain. And I can only imagine that we kind of have the same trend. So like Uniswap obviously is the biggest Ethereum based DEX in the world. Everything else is kind of secondary to it. Whereas on the flip side, for example, in the Cosmos, when you have Osmosis, which is not the friendliest for beginners to use, it is the biggest, but their tokenomics for the Osmo token is just not good. And THORChain, I like the idea behind how they're doing things, where they bond the Rune token to whatever asset you're depositing. I guess the problem I'm seeing is that it's still a speculative thing. Like the Rune token is heavily speculated in. I mean, it was under $1. Now it's almost $2, which is insane. I'm seeing $1.96, and it was 91 cents at the beginning of August. So it's up more than 100% in a month. And I get that lending's a big deal. It's important. We need this. But it feels like that is so hot, it has to sell off.
Well, the context for that is if you pull out on THORChain's like macro, like the long-term chart. During the 2021 run, it was like over $20 a coin.
Yes, which is crazy.
It's crazy that it was that. It's not crazy that it was that high. It's crazy that it's this low compared to that. When the end product, the usage, all the other fundamentals are way better. And this is where I will, I guess, levy a criticism of THORChain, but it's not a THORChain specific criticism. It's more of a roundabout way of complementing Maya's model, because THORChain obviously had token issuance, and even though most of the network is paid through fees, there's still some inflation or some of that's paying for nodes and liquidity providers and stuff like that. And they also had like one token, so when people thought, oh, THORChain's a cool project, they just aped into the token, and then when other things happened, then they just dumped, and then this very valuable utility token that manages the liquidity across all these pools just gets pumped and dumped, and it causes havoc for actual adoption. I think that's one of the reasons why THORChain has not gotten more attention, is because of that dynamic. Now, Maya has a different thing in that Maya has two tokens. It is the Cacao token, which was completely airdropped to liquidity providers in the beginning. It's completely issued. It's done. There's no inflation, which already is good, right? There's no reason to dump because you're not paying the inflation out to old investors aren't paying that out to new investors or whatever. But also the Maya token that gets 10% of the transaction fees on the network. That's the speculative token. That's the investment. That's the security token, or whatever you want to call it, where you buy that if you want to speculate on the future of the project, and you dump it if you don't like it. And then that kind of leaves the regular operations alone from all this like speculative stuff and makes it easier. So the thing that's cool about THORChain is THORChain's version 1, just like Bitcoin is a version 1. And then the following versions, there's so much just like with Bitcoin, it started everything. There's so much you could build on top of that and beyond that. It's the same thing with THORChain, where now you're having other projects like Maya that are improving on its design.
Yeah, I mean, and I've followed the Cosmos for like 2 years now, and I've seen so many projects come and fail because either people don't plan on building a sustainable business, and I'm not sure what kind of fees Uniswap is getting right now, but I remember during the bull market, people were paying ungodly amounts of money in gas fees. And I like that, THORChain's kind of removed some of that issue. I mean, obviously you still have to pay transaction fees, but they're minimal at best. Whereas like with Bitcoin, you're still paying, you know, more than fractions of a penny.
Yeah. So let me actually throw this up on the screen. I'm looking up the Ethereum gas thing, right? So the Uniswap universal router generated 208,000 in fees in the last 24 hours. The V2 router is more than that, 250. And yeah, so just two Uniswap routers. Basically, Uniswap alone seems to generate around what Bitcoin does in fees, or almost as much, which is kind of crazy.
That is insane. And wait, what was the volume on Uniswap's routers? Does it say?
This is just the gas tracker.
I got you. I got you.
I'd have to look somewhere else about where the volume comes from, like what the volume is. But let me actually just for
I wonder because a lot of like all the TVO and the volume, it's all measured in US dollars. So if the price of the token goes up, then your fees are going to look a lot higher. And it like because TVL was really poorly like done in general. So many people thought, having a high TVL meant, oh, that's a good thing, time to go all in, and then lo and behold, they get rugged and then they lose everything. It's like TVL is totally subjective, whereas the volume, it's helpful to a degree.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there's a million Uniswaps. I'm looking at CoinGecko.
Of course.
There's like 8 million of them, but the Ethereum one, 455 million 24-hour volume for Ethereum, and then it's 135 million for Arbitrum 1, and then 41 for V2 on Ethereum, and for Polygon V3 is 32 grand. So yeah, there's 32 million, whatever. There's some decent volume.
THORChain's 24 hours is 36 million in volume.
So basically, THORChain's 24-hour volume is, according to that, would be similar to Uniswap's Polygon volume. So, not huge, but we're in the game now. We're actually playing with some of the big players. So that's important. Let's switch over to talk about this BitBoy thing. So we're already chewed through so much of the time just on that thing, which is good. That's a substantive one. That's the one I was prepared to talk about. These other ones are just sort of addendums.
This is the gossip.
This is what matters to nobody but is fun, right? So I just putting up on the screen who makes these memes of Ben Theft Auto, like a Grand Theft Auto thing with BitBoy. I feel bad, to a certain extent, laughing at him too much because I was on his channel one time. I was invited to go on and talk about. He wasn't on at the same time, but it was one time, someone cooler than me had to drop out. And they're like, "Hey." But this dude, so Ben Armstrong, aka BitBoy, for those who've been living under a rock, or honestly, let's just maybe my audience, people who only care about the digital cash use case and don't keep up with the gossip. He's I think the biggest or one of the biggest crypto YouTubers, and he's one of those pumpy people who's joined my Telegram group for exclusive this, and then charges 40 grand to mention a project on his show and all this kind of sketchy stuff, right? He went off the deep end. What do you remember about the deep ending of what he did?
So I did not watch the 32-minute long video recording live stream that was posted, but so essentially his Lambo got repoed. He got kicked off of his network. I don't know the internal politics. I know he had some disagreement with them over something, and they're like, "Yeah, get out. You're done."
You're done.
And the branding name, because BitBoy, that is a big name, and so that's where I think he kind of just lost it. And apparently he did some GoFundMe fundraiser. I'm not sure how. I think was it Ethereum that he did it with? I forget the specifics, but basically he fundraised $50,000, and then what do you do with $50,000? Buy a ton of cocaine, get your mistress, and go get your Lambo back. And he decided that recording all of this would be a good idea, which, it's evidence against him.
Yeah, of
Everything he
course.
recorded is evidence. So it's like you have enough cocaine there to get put away for a long time,
Yeah.
and your
I mean,
wife is
if people even get put away for cocaine these days, but
see, but with that large an amount, I feel like it's too easy. Like you get it. That's unless he wants to somehow settle, which I think begs the bigger question: where did all his money go? If he was getting these insane fees for pumping tokens on his show, and basically going on other people's shows, he'd charge thousands of dollars just for an appearance. Like, where did all the money go?
yeah,
Close.
who knows? Who knows if a lot of it was in the company and then he lost it by screwing up, or if he went to the personal stuff, or if he spent it all on drugs. The thing is, from my from my memory,
Hmm.
he in earlier in life had some severe addiction problems, and he got sober, and he actually like crashed into a cop car and stuff like that. That's what he
Jeez.
says, right? This is many
Uh-huh.
years ago, right? And then he became sober, and then clearly he's not. I would say 95% chance he's not sober right now, right? I'm always living the 5%,
Yeah.
but seems like he's back on the coke, and
Uh-huh.
it's fantastic for like TMZ style, like ha, you like watching, but there's a little bit of a tragedy under that where it's like, oh man, like a dude who has some real problems, like his problems caught him,
Yeah.
and that sucks, and I feel bad for him in that case. But at the same time, he's kind of not been a very good person for a while. He's kind of like threatened to sue. Remember that kid he threatened to sue? I forget, Tozy or whatever his name was, Cryptozy or something. Some kid was talking smack about his stuff, and he threatened to sue him. And then this guy raised like a few hundred grand in 24 hours for his legal defense, and then
Hmm.
BitBoy backed off and stuff. But he's done a bunch of scummy things to people.
I
So
mean, like,
yeah.
he's like, I never watched his stuff. Like, I talked to Scott about him a few times, and it always seemed like no matter what he was doing, it was never something positive. He was
Hmm.
always, pumping some rug pull that was really obvious. Like, and I understand that, with YouTube, technically you can say whatever you want.
Hmm.
Now, you might get demonetized, you might get shadow banned, but you can say whatever you want in a video. So there was never any way for anyone to hold this guy accountable. And he
Hmm.
clearly accumulated a lot of money over the years from doing this for so long. And I can't help but think, like, perhaps this has been going on a lot longer, and just no one wanted to do anything about it until they took his Lambo back. Because to me, that's like the ultimate ego move right there. Like,
Yeah.
when Lambo, oh, I have the Lambo now, I have the money, let's go do something really stupid. And then it's like, okay, you're on a live stream, the police
Hmm.
are going to see this. You're also trying to steal someone else's property because your car got repoed. So it's no longer yours. You're trying to steal a car with your mistress in your vehicle with you, and you've got a ton of cocaine. That sounds like he's just not doing well.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just it just was so funny. Like I did watch a little bit of the stream, just like the 3 minute clip or whatever it was, because he was first off, he has a wife,
Yeah.
like who I really feel bad. I mean, maybe she's an awful person too. I'm gonna assume she's not, but like poor lady,
Hmm.
long suffering. I'm sure she either dealt with his previous addiction or found him after he sobered up, but still knew that was in his past, like long suffering, whatever. This fellow clearly cares only about himself and his own money and glory, and started doing the Richard Hart Gucci clothes kind
Yeah.
of kind of deal. He started doing that, and then got the Lambo, and then there's just some like crypto influencer chick. He's just like, I'm gonna start, having an affair, and just doing all like the egotistical nonsense. And then he has this apology video with his wife where he brings his wife on camera to be like,
My
look,
gosh.
it's all good, and I'm sorry for cheating.
Is
See, she
that
still
what that
likes me.
top left corner bit is?
Yeah, that's what that
Oh
is.
man.
That's his wife, and so that
Oh
was
my.
that was his
Oh.
apology video. And then
Oh.
not long after the apology video, he's like running around with a gun in his back, in his car, trying to take back his Lambo, live streaming it, and he mentions that, oh, I'm sorry for cheating, and why is he with the mistress again after he already apologized? Like, okay.
Yeah. See, this kids is what you shouldn't do when you make a lot of money. Like
Yeah.
don't don't blow it all on mistresses and coke. And don't buy a car. Like if you make real serious money, don't buy a car. That is a
Hmm.
horrible use of that money. Like go deposit some on THORChain if you want a tiny little bit of yield, like there's options. And like to me, he's just screaming like material obsession to the extreme. Like
Hmm.
I go out in public. I never see anyone wearing clothes like he has. I never
Yeah.
like I rarely see Lambos. I mean, I've seen a few, but it's like people don't typically flash this kind of wealth, like because that's just usually one car in someone's collection. It's not like their Lambo is their only vehicle, you
Hmm.
know. But yeah, it just seems like he's totally consumed by like the obsession of image and
Hmm.
materialism to the point where like he could have made an absolute fortune taking all the money he made and investing it in certain ways, and instead he chose to clearly just kind of, you know,
Just
snort it all
more.
away.
Just
Yeah.
more, all the time more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale. It's kind of everything that's wrong with crypto, like after
Yes.
the cypherpunks and the idealists and stuff came in and built the foundation. It's the next level of the get rich quickers.
Yeah.
The Wolf of Wall Street type people. So,
Oh yeah.
all right, well, let's hit on this last couple minutes about the
Oh,
ETF thing.
oh
So,
yes.
let me hit on this first. So, Scoop tomorrow. This was yesterday. Tomorrow, Valkyrie, who I'm familiar with, right, will begin offering exposure to ETH futures through its newly combined Bitcoin and Ether strategy ETF, making it the first U.S. firm to allow investors to bet on the future price of the second largest digital asset. So, in the meantime, but then apparently they pre-bought a lot of these shares, and then the SEC yelled at them, and so
Oh man.
according to this, haha, Valkyrie bought ETH futures ahead of launching, and it seems like the SEC was not a fan of that, and it's forcing them to sell those, which they'll have to do today, and making them rebuy them when it goes live next week. So I just thought that little tidbit was kind of funny on the whole subject. But yeah, what's your snap
So
reaction to this thing?
look, like I really don't like when people hype these kinds of things up because
Hmm.
if you look, so for example, with this one, just from what they're saying, it's Bitcoin and Ether strategy ETF. But if you look at what's actually in it, they're not holding Bitcoin in a, self-custodial wallet. They're not holding Ethereum in some vault. It's futures contracts. And because that's the only thing that big money, family offices and hedge funds are allowed to buy in the United States, they want that money to come in. And I was just looking at the chart for Ethereum, and it popped like straight up in a straight
Hmm.
line, which is kind of crazy on the scale. But I mean, like, for example, in November of last year, Ethereum was $1,100. Now it's almost 1,700. And I think that especially with all the different layer twos that have come out, I lost track of them ages ago. Like I couldn't tell you how many layer twos there are for Ethereum now.
Hmm.
And because the central ETH token is the main thing, that's the main speculative asset for people to hold if they, think Ethereum's going to go to 10,000 or whatever, outlandish claim they want to make. But I think that especially in this bear market, yes, money has definitely drained, and people are looking for safer things. Like they've been piling into Lido for the last several months, and now Lido is a critical threat because it has something like 30% of all staked Ethereum in
Hmm.
one place. Nothing could go wrong there. But with this ETF, it's just buying futures, so it's going to allow hedge funds and big family offices and sovereign wealth funds to speculate on the price of Ethereum through futures.
Hmm.
And people say, well, it's great for adoption because then you'll have more people wanting to use it. No, this is speculation to make money.
Mm-hmm.
We know that PayPal launched their stable coin, whatever you want to call that thing, that's on Ethereum.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I haven't heard about this. Maybe you have Venezuela's Petro
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrency that they tried to push, and it was an utter failure. That was Ethereum based, and
Yeah,
this
the
just
latest
screams,
iteration may have
yeah.
been the original one was a dash fork because you looked
Okay,
in their code base, they forgot to rename the lowest Satoshi denomination from a Duff, which is
I gotcha.
Dash's founder Evan Duffield. That's where that came from.
Okay,
So
see, and
it's been through
it,
some
yeah,
iterations, but yeah, it's all a
yeah.
failure.
And today they just announced Nigeria has completely abandoned their CBDC because there's riots. People
Yeah.
don't want to use it. But I think a lot of money's flowed out of Ethereum, especially since the peak. And the people who control Ethereum, specifically the big holders, your
Mm-hmm.
insiders, the foundation, they're down big. They were buying at the top. You better believe they were buying at the top. So these
Mm-hmm.
people want to cash out their money. Where's it going to come from? People like to say, well, Americans don't have savings anymore. Well, then where's the money going to come from? If Americans aren't the ones buying this, well, Wall Street's sitting there waiting for a way in. They're not hedge funds are not buying Ethereum right now. But if you give them some futures, you better believe there will be. And unlike Bitcoin, technically speaking, the Bitcoin futures contracts aren't actually settling transactions on chain. It's
Yeah.
still just a paper derivative. So I would assume this is the same kind of thing. And I guess Wall Street's going to play this off as, hey, diversification, it's Bitcoin and Ethereum. When was that ever a good idea?
Well.
Like you're taking two heavily speculated upon assets, combining them together and using leverage on top of that all because it's all
Mm-hmm.
futures. It's not real.
Yeah.
Like I don't trust this at all. It's scary.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
definitely the new age of things, and I mean, at the end of the day, you can't stop it. But
No, I know you can't stop it. It's just like if you believe in something, buy it and hold it yourself. Don't trust third
hmm
parties. Don't pay management fees. That's it's just like with the US dollar. If you put your money in a 401k, that 401k manager controls your money. It's not yours. Whereas if you have it in a self-directed IRA, you decide where the money gets invested. So it's like, sure, Valkyrie, it's good that there are more options. I want more options, but I don't think this solves the problem that we have, which is, adoption and access at the end of
for
the day.
sure. Let's wrap up on this super chat
Yeah.
from Hilawe, where he says, "Cocaine is a hell of a drug." Yeah, I mean,
I
obviously,
love that.
that's more applicable to the BitBoy story, but it could be applicable
Yeah.
anywhere. Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for coming on. It's shill-o'clock now,
Uh-huh.
so shill
Okay.
whatever you want to promote,
Oh
and then we'll
man.
wrap this thing up.
Well, I guess there's two things, and I do work with both. The first is Hive. I don't know if you use Hive
I
at
have
all.
in the past. I haven't. I've kind of dropped off recently.
So yeah, obviously the blogging aspect, it's not for everyone, but there is something called Cast Garden, which is a podcasting 2.0 live streaming video platform. Um, my good friend Ken is the project manager and builder. I like using it. I think honestly, when he's fully fleshed out his plans for it, I think it's going to make YouTube completely uh, obsolete because once you have super chats and you have reliable monetization, YouTube and I mean it's
They
the
take a
same with
big
Twitter
cut
too.
now.
Yeah, like Twitter already has live streaming, so YouTube is losing people, and a lot of people will say, well, Hive is so tiny, most people don't know it exists. Yeah, because they don't have any kind of marketing. They were never focused on promotion. They were just, hey, our blockchain works. And that's good. The other thing I guess I wanted to shill was Shade Protocol. And actually, you're the kind of person who would probably be very interested in this because Shade Protocol is private by default DeFi. and they are a front-running, resistant, decentralized exchange in the
Interesting.
cosmos. Um, they do have two tokens, the Shade token and then a stable coin, which is called Silk. It is a completely unique concept. Silk is not pegged 1-to-1 to the dollar. It's a basket-backed, Oracle-priced coin. It's certainly worth looking at. I think that especially for the privacy crowd, there's a lot of us who love Monero but hate how Monero has like no utility.
Hmm.
There's no DeFi. You can't like you can hold it and you
Mm-hmm.
can spend it in some places, but you can't really earn yield. THORChain hasn't listed Monero,
Yeah.
whereas THORChain is also Cosmos SDK.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with what Shade's doing, especially they're so early stage right now, and they are the only Cosmos application that has MetaMask integration.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the ability to onboard anyone from Ethereum, all those layer twos. Then you also have the Cosmos. I think they're definitely someone worth following.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the team is really accessible, and they are more than happy to talk. They're super passionate crypto nerds. I can I can tell you that.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was what I wanted to show.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Thanks everyone for watching. It's been a good show. I gotta run off and do the Dash podcast right now. So same channel, different link. Um, See everyone there. Thanks for being on, Flynn. Everyone else, happy Friday. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.